we're good to go.
And away we go.
Well, of the many things we like to talk about, food is definitely on the radar.
Most definitely.
Sam and I have been on some pretty good food hunts.
Excursions.
Yeah, for sure. We went for the best hot dog, the best burger, the best taco, the best barbecue. So we're kind of some well-rounded guys when it comes to our way around the dinner table and the plates.
I like to start these little hunts off with there used to be an opening line till I remember, like back in the early 70s, you'd start off with a crazy story like, in the deepest, darkest parts of Africa, that's where Australia unfolds.
This is, and some of it's been almost that adventurous.
Yes.
Well, it's funny because in Texas, I mean, you have so much going on. You have a lot of festivals going on. You have a lot of parties now coming into the holidays.
Yep.
Seems like ramping up to Thanksgiving, it's not really, there are things to do on the weekends, but once Thanksgiving hits going into the new year, it seems like there's something every weekend everywhere.
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, and you're going to start us off with one of your brewery visits because I know, so I like beer,
yeah,
but you love beer, and you're more of an aficionado on that than I am.
When I say I like going to breweries, I like talking to the people that are brewing the beer,
right,
or the people that know something about the beer, or whatever their culture is.
Sure.
About why they started doing what they do. And entrepreneurial stuff I just freaking love. So our last recording day, because we had that whole skip a week because of the University of YouTube.
Right.
I went to this new local brewery that's probably been open. I can't even venture to tell you when it opened. But it's been this year, and I learned about it from a childhood friend of mine when we were doing a meetup, and I hadn't seen the guy in probably 20 years. So the place we went to another local business, which I'll throw out is Backyard Grill over here in the Cypress, Texas area. So we're sitting around, and he quickly learned as we were catching up that I'm a beer snob. So later on, he contacts me and lets me know that there's this new brewery that's going up over off of Jones Road. And first thing I think, that's an odd place to be putting a brewery, only because it's just probably like one of the busiest streets around.
It's a residential area all the way around it, yeah.
And so it's Klaus Brewery, and so in my head I kind of imagine, man, here's a business venture that's probably not going to last very long. And even by looking at photos from the street, using the Google view, it was a bit misleading until I got over there and I saw how they had arranged. So they were set up in like a business park, but I had imagined they set it up traditionally, like in a maybe a shopping center that was facing the street, which they did not. It was they used the land. Land use was well.
Wasn't
well
this that
used.
burger place? Wasn't it Rockwell's? Is it right next to the old PO's or the Shack? Is that it?
No. So
okay.
the Klaus is over off of Jones Road, in between probably 1960 and Steeplechase.
Yeah, I'm going to look it up while you're talking.
So anyway, the way that they had set this place up, it was good use of land space or land use, and parking was really good, and the place was, for it being a Thursday night, it was actually pretty packed for a Thursday. And the thing that would be appealing for, I know for people who live in like the Heights area or whatever, a lot of the criteria they look for is like dog friendly. Well, this place had kind of that mindset as creating a space that was friendly for, if somebody wanted to bring their family pet with them, they could. It was really, really cool. Remember we went to Little J's when the cigar nights used to be there?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so you remember kind of that patio area that's out in front?
Uh-huh.
It had a very similar patio area, only theirs was like 2.5 times what Little J's was. pretty robust area where you could do, if you wanted to go there with, a handful of actually larger than a handful of friends. You could hang out on this patio area. They had games set up, a lot of seating space outside, as well as good seating space inside. And they rotate food trucks through there. So the night that I was there, the food truck that was there was a food truck called Paco and Nani's Smokehouse. Or I think I got that right.
Yeah, it's right. Yeah, Smokehouse.
And I had this freaking, they called it the Texas brisket burrito, which was absolutely freaking delicious. And
sounds good.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is that I went there specifically for this beer mug, because when I was notified of this event that was going on there, all I clued in was I'm always looking for unique beer mugs. And they had this ginormous mug. It's like a big gulp for alcoholic drinks. and it was glass, so I went over there and quickly learned that whatever they put in this mug, it ain't getting drink in a hurry, because it was huge. And the beer that I happened to choose was just a very high ABV, so I decided to just kind of, slow sip it and just kind of enjoy the environment that I was in. But it was very relaxed.
Right.
It was a very cool area. Actually, I saw a lot of people that, like, it looked like they had just gotten off work. And so, people are still in their business suits or business attire.
So it's a place to unwind.
Yeah. I was actually kind of surprised that, based on how today's business culture is, that they would go there. But these people that were conversing,
that younger generation, that's a big thing.
It was an older generation. That was
good.
the first thing that I clued in on.
Right. Now, do they microbrew there?
Yes, they do. Yeah, matter of fact, I saw some photos in their Facebook page where their brew set up. I didn't see how large it was, because I'm not sure if, I don't think their product is commercially available through retail outlets.
Right, which I like that. I like the fact that I like destination places.
Me too.
So for me, I'm a big wine guy, so I can tell you almost everything you would know about wine, much like Sam can with beer. So what I end up doing is I end up trusting Sam's pick for my palate, because I don't like big hoppy beers. I just don't. I don't like that big weedy. I'm more of a lager guy, so I kind of like more of those. So I'm looking forward to making a trip over there for lunch one day for sure.
And my gauge is like if you, when the doctor asks you for, hey, what's your pain level versus
right,
hey, I'm smiling to the guy that's fucking crying.
Right.
That's kind of me with beer.
It's funny because in the last 6 months there's been a lot of these drinking establishments open up. I noticed on 249 up front of Regal 19 they're putting a bombshells up front there.
Yeah, one of my old bosses.
Yeah, so they bombshells going in, and there's 2 or 3 the Thirsty Whistle.
Oh yeah. I think that's the one.
2920.
Yeah, I can't keep up with all these.
Yeah, there's like 2 or 3 of them that are open up, so we definitely need to get out and look at those. Because I like the idea that they're running food trucks through there. Sure. Because the hardest part when you're starting up a business is trying to determine what food's going to go well in your business. And a lot of times, I think that when you do that, if you don't know what you're doing, just stay away from it and bring in a food truck, because there's a lot of overhead to that, having a kitchen. Absolutely. And I know when my friend and I were, when I was doing the food at his establishment, the hardest part was his limitations as far as help goes. And that's one of those things that when you're doing signature food, you need a chef that is there. You just don't need to design a menu, turn it over to a bunch of employees, and walk off. Sure. That's where a lot of these people get in trouble. And luckily, these guys are smart enough to say, hey, we're bringing in an established train of food trucks, which is smart. And then you also kind of build a destination to it. Hey, this truck, you follow the truck. Hey, it's going to Klaus. I'm going to go there. Yeah. So I love that. That's pretty cool. And I think you're seeing more and more of that now. So between, so you've got Klaus, which I recently went to, and then with just the recent passing of, let's see, this past weekend was what the
8th or so.
Yeah.
So we just had the passing of the Tomball German Christmas festival thing.
Well, yeah. So the festival started on the 7th, I think it was. When it's Saturday, or Friday.
Yeah, Friday night.
So it started Friday night, and so it was in conflict with the Roscoe Backyard Movie Night.
Which, yes, yeah.
So what we do every year is we decorate the house, but it's like we don't do the front yard because I'm getting tired of looking at neighborhood posts of people stealing decorations out of people's yards.
You don't want a crime scene from your house showing up on the commercial.
Exactly.
Commercial of Ring.
I'm telling you, you pop up in my yard. I got enough cameras out there. If I see you, you're probably gonna get shot.
Yeah, it's gonna be yes.
I hate to say that on public, but I'm telling you. So we decided we're gonna decorate the backyard. So we went and bought a big blue spruce Christmas tree in the backyard and decorated it all up. And what we do is we basically make a winter wonderland in the backyard, and we set up a movie screen and we watch Christmas movies in the backyard, and we have a potluck dinner.
Uh-huh.
So what we do is we invite a group of people. Of course, you can only invite so many because the yard only holds so much. But we usually try to get 20, 25 people in the yard. Well, what ends up happening is we have beautiful weather all week leading up into Friday. Friday, it's like 80% chance of rain, high winds. And
newscasters forecasting like
apocalypse, apocalyptic weather, which they weren't too far off. So it started raining about I don't know 3:30 in the afternoon. So I'm sending out an email to the group saying, "Hey, look, don't feel like obligated to come out if you don't want to get out in the weather. You know, we'll just postpone it, do another day." And everybody's like, "No, we're coming." So we ended up having 18 or 19, 20 people in the house.
Very good turnout.
In the house. And we have a modest sized house, not very big. And so we were basically cramming people in every nook and cranny in the house. The kitchen was kind of crowded. And so what ended up happening is it was potluck. And so everybody was bringing really nice dishes So Sam here donated a 13-pound prime rib roast.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
delicious.
And he left it in my hands to prepare, and
which
so
was the smartest move I could have made.
Well, yeah, I've had a few experiences with those, and so basically what I did is I took this end, and what he did is he brought a wholesale end of this rib roast, so it weighed in at almost 14 pounds. So I get it out and I start to trim it. So what I did is I French cut the bone. So made sure that it was like a standing rib roast. And so I went ahead and I cut it all off and got all the fat trimmed off and got it down to where it was workable. And I put all this trimming in a bowl and sent him a picture of it. And it was like, you ever seen a picture where you have this gigantic poodle and then you shave it and it looks like there's no dog there. But I told him not to panic. It's all good. That's usually what these things do. So what I did was I injected it with Cajun butter. I'll fess up to it. I knew I wanted some flavor in that thing. And so we have a friend whose parents have a barbecue rub company. And it's pretty good. They have this rub called Texas Cattleman. And so I used that and I rubbed it on the outside and added some other flavors to it. And I got the grill going. I was in the rain. I mean, where my grill is all covered.
Right.
But to and from the kitchen to the grill, I got soaked. I mean, literally, I was soaked. But it was on the grill for almost 4 hours. What I did is I put it over high heat, direct heat.
Right.
Seared it all up really good. Slathered some more butter. Put some rosemary on it. Wrapped it up in foil and moved it to the non-direct side and just let that heat just pull across that thing. And I would go out and turn it every 15, 20 minutes to get all sides. Uh-huh. So by the time it was all done, internal temperature probably rocking about 130. This was a little more well done than normal. I usually pull them at 120. But I knew I would have a lot of people there that probably didn't want to see raw meat in the middle. So we brought it out and let it rest. And I want you to know, God dang, it was good.
Delicious.
It cut up pretty good. And as a matter of fact, in the enthusiasm, I damn near cut my thumb off. I use a real sharp brisket knife. There's not a dull knife in my drawer. And I got bumped. Literally got bumped. It was not my foul. It was a bump. And when I went to slice my left thumb, I almost took the end of it off. It was pretty bad.
The meat was that good that there was a mad rush that they didn't care that there was a blade being brandished.
Yeah, that was true. So, so it's pouring rain. The streets are almost flooded. The sidewalk's flooded. We finally get everybody in the house. And we enjoyed a really good time.
Yeah,
We had
it was a lot of fun.
For the house being as crowded as it was. I mean, literally, my wife panics more than I do on this kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, they'll find a seat. We'll make it work. But we got everybody in, had a good time. I made a giant pot of gumbo.
Yeah.
I had chicken and sausage gumbo to go with it, and we had chicken and rice. Basically, we had lots of desserts.
There was just a lot of different choices of different foods.
Yeah,
and I know with my parents, when I was checking to see how they were getting along, when I walked up to them and with my parents and their friend, all three of them just kind of clutched their belly. So then I knew, okay, we're all good. This was a success.
Oh, for sure. And I told everybody we'll do the movie some other time, but right now the weather wasn't good. Because normally we would go to the German Fest on Friday and go Friday night for the opening night. Well, apparently apocalyptic weather got a hold of them too. They had the streets were flooded.
Yeah.
The wind was blowing the tents all over the place. It was basically a bust.
Yeah. This year their Christmas festival was just not anywhere close to any of our previous experiences.
And it's unfortunate. It really is, because being that I used to be in the concession business years ago, there's nothing worse than putting out all your money, getting all your product ready to go, and then you get there and the range just shuts it down, and you're sitting on all this product that you can't carry over. Some of it you just can't carry over. So I really feel bad for them, but I will say they bounced back really good Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday they did, and then Sunday, I think Sunday.
No, we went Sunday, right?
Yeah, we went
Sunday in the afternoon.
But it was pretty frosty. I mean,
it was
just getting worse.
It was. Well, I was dressed like I was in Colorado or something. I was nice and warm. I had my thermals. I had thermals on under the jeans. So my wife and her friend went earlier. They went at noon. And I ended up showing up there. I guess I come and got you at, 2:30?
Yeah.
About 2:30. Pardon me. And we went out there and hung out for a little bit. And I'll tell you, it was not as attended as it normally was, and it's probably because it was cold, because it kept getting colder and colder and colder.
Yeah, because I think all the two previous years, I want to say maybe the first year I ever attended, it was kind of cold, but it was the weather wasn't nasty,
right?
Based on Saturday or based on Friday and Saturdays. Because I think Saturday, it rained. Until,
yeah.
So that had to put a damper on people's plans to go there.
Yeah.
Particularly families with kids. They want to get that done early. Well, if it gets too late, because I had almost relegated myself to I wasn't going to make my annual pilgrimage.
Well, I know if I didn't make the phone call, you probably wouldn't.
Yeah, because I was I was contemplating. I was like, well, let me see. This will be the first year I've missed.
Well, we ended up going, but we didn't drink any beer.
No beer.
It was just we had some Glühwein, which was pretty good. We hit Noni's for the brats. The brats were really. I like the brats.
Now I will say, beer wise, they don't exactly have the largest selection of beer, and then there's certain beers that
it's sponsored. That's why
the sponsored beer. I mean, I'll have them every once in a while. Yeah. There's a brewer there that I have a resistance to try, and that's just for my personal reasons. But.
Well, it took them so long to get that open, and then now I assumed it was going to be a microbrewery.
Right.
But it's really not. It's a brew pub.
And restaurant, and I hope I wish them all the success.
I do too.
But I'm the beer guy. So, whenever I'm reading reviews and somebody throws out the question of, hey, do you serve wine? Well, the smart ass in me goes, what part of brewery do you not understand?
Right.
So
it's a drinking establishment at that point. Yeah. Well, there's a wine place right down the street from it. It's Empty Glass, I think it's called.
I don't walk in there asking if they serve fucking beer.
Right. And they probably do, knowing these wine people anymore, because they're just doing anything they can to keep you in the door.
Right.
But yeah, no, all in all, it was pretty good. We ended up we got the
brats and pierogies.
Now I will say there was a dude there selling bundt cakes. They were 6-inch bundt cakes.
Yeah.
Man, were they good.
I had the carrot cake one, and it was the bomb.
Yeah, I had lemon, which was really good.
I think it was the Baker Man.
I think it was the Baker Man. Yeah, so shout out to that guy.
Wow, that was good cake.
He's a cool dude too. He was just, So some of the vendors you see there are the ones that also participate in the Tomball Farmers Market. Okay, which I think is kind of cool. I like that.
Which I don't go to enough.
Yeah, so I try to go. It's the Saturday of every month.
Right.
So I try to go. I think it starts at 8:00 and closes at noon or 1 or something like that.
I actually saw a post about it. Like earlier today.
I like going there because I get broccoli sprouts while I'm there. Believe it or not. But anyway, there's all kinds of barbecue sauce and snacks, and you can get fresh grass-fed beef there that's frozen, of course, but you get all kinds of good stuff at Tomball's Farmers Market.
Our buddy with Counter-Strike Coffee,
he doesn't go out there anymore.
Really?
Yeah, he quit doing that a long time ago.
I did not know.
Yeah,
that. Okay.
I went out there.
He stays busy though.
Yeah, he's busy with other. He's moved his business away from the farmers market. And he does more of an online kind of thing, right. And I think he also has businesses in the area that buys coffee. We went to the Crescent Moon.
Oh yeah, Crescent Moon Cafe.
Yeah, cafe, and she had his coffee there, and by the way, she's got good sandwiches. I would go see her too.
Good sandwiches.
Yeah, she's on Jones Road, and so you can just look her up. But so yeah, we go there, and we'll get Counter-Strike coffee while we're there. And it's funny because so moving through the German Fest, we're kind of looking at other things to do,
right?
And so a couple things have kind of popped up. It's some events coming up this month in the Woodlands. They have the Holly Jolly Food Truck Fest.
Yeah, which is Saturday.
And that's day after tomorrow.
Right.
And then you have Southern Brewery has the
Southern Yankee.
Yeah, they have a Christmas annual Christmas thing.
Something ho ho ho.
Yeah, get your ho ho hos. Yeah, and so that's over on 1960. Now that's on the 21st. So what's fun about this time of year is you get these businesses now, and they're non-corporate. This is why I like going to these, because I don't want you to give me a menu with $2 off of the same stuff I can get the rest of the year.
Right.
I want to go somewhere that's unique, has local flavor, and we're supporting local businesses.
And it's so this kind of subject sort of piggybacks off another discussion that we had about kind of finding your own way.
Right.
Hey, when life presents you kind of a curveball, and you kind of figure out where do you want to be instead of sitting behind some desk putting in the grind.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, if you want to make if you're good at making beer and can grow a business from that, go ahead. Knock yourself
absolutely.
out.
No doubt.
Become a part of the fabric of your community.
I think it's an important thing to do.
Absolutely.
I think it's and like I said, I'm I know people have to work somewhere, and I'm not knocking the corporates if that's what you like to do. If you want to go to one of those corporates, go right ahead. But when you're supporting these local businesses, you're supporting people that are your neighbors, that are trying to make a business run. But also those tax dollars are here.
Right.
They're not going off into some corporate entity anywhere, and that's the nice thing about it.
Another actually the same week that this past weekend where Tomball's Christmas German Festival. So another brewery is Twisted Acre, and I've known about them for a few years, and they've been grinding out of their garage, a neighborhood garage, for years.
And where's their place at?
So their location is over off of Grant near Telge, where those cross over.
Oh, okay.
They're in a business park over there. And I watched them come out of the ground. Their home setup,
okay,
I was like envious of, because it was the coolest thing that I'd ever seen.
Right.
But they space planned that garage to where they could operate efficiently, making beer. Like one of their beers, it was something Mexican lager or something.
Oh wow, I would like that.
But they have some pretty big beers in their lineup, and their grand opening was this past weekend, and so they got a recent write-up and a digital kind of, I guess it's a digital blog of a guy here in Houston. It's called the Houston Beer Scene. And so he was invited to come over there and kind of review their establishment and beer and whatever. He said some really nice things about the place, but he was also very brutally honest about the beer. He pointed out which ones he was more inclined to repeatedly, drink on another occasion, and ones where he just said, "Hey, that's not really my cup of tea." Because it's not your cup of tea doesn't mean it's bad. It's just
right. It's just not his preference.
Preference. But they actually managed their grand opening well, in spite of this torrential weather that we had.
Right.
And they were in an area where flooding was a very, very real thing.
Right.
That unincorporated part of Grant and Tony.
Oh, that is bad down there.
Yeah. So that friggin' water over there gets over the ditches like in a hurry.
It does. It goes down quick, but it rises pretty quick too.
But they had a food truck, or I know they had at least one food truck there.
Right.
But again, one of these local establishments that's in our neighborhood, inside of 10 minutes, I can be standing at the door of almost any one of the places that we've named.
They have a very cool webpage. I'm looking at it right now, and it's actually pretty cool. It's definitely something I'm going to go see.
Oh yeah.
But like I said, these local food places. I mean, like you said earlier about a reviewer. So I write reviews, and there are times I have to stop and measure myself. Because when I'm reviewing, I try to be objective without being overtly rude or nasty.
Right.
Okay. Generally, if I'm rude or nasty, it's because of an experience that happened while I was there. And I try to keep my feelings towards the food separate.
Right.
But I will tell you, you can clearly tell when somebody's mailing in their work and when somebody really, really puts in effort. And it sounds like this reviewer really took the time to preface that, saying, look, he says, because like for me, I like Guinness, I like stouts, I like lagers. I kind of like some of the flavored beers. I don't like big weedy beers, and I don't really like huge hoppy beers.
Yeah, hoppy beers.
But that doesn't mean that they're not good beers. They just don't work with me.
Yes,
so,
your palate's just different.
Yeah, my palate's just a little bit different. And if I'm going to drink something to enjoy, I don't want to have to endure my way through it. Same way with wine or anything else. So at least the guy took the time to professionally review. A lot of people don't do that. They review from what I call the hip.
Yes.
They didn't get something their way, so they get pissed off, and they jump on Yelp or they rate them really low, okay, without really deserving it.
And a lot of times, like some of these experiences that they convey are not even their own. They're just a story that some friend of theirs told them about it. So therefore, somebody else's experience becomes your experience. And that one experience, if it's reported, and really in essence, can be exponential. Somebody can be reporting the same thing over and over and over again.
That's why I'm really careful when I read Yelp reviews. First of all, when I see reviews and it's rated really high, I want to make sure there's at least more than 50, preferably well over 100, before I go with that rating system. Because if out of 100 people rated it and it's a 4.9, then I start looking at, well, what were the issues?
Right.
And generally, if it's service issues, I'm not going to, I'm going to go see the food for myself.
Sure.
Because you can have an excellent meal and have a horrible service experience. And that happens in many, many places.
My cousin's husband, so actually my cousin and I and her husband, so they like to go to the different breweries around here. So, you've got not only the ones that have been mentioned here, but like you've got 11 Below. And Eighth Wonder Brew. So they go to all these different ones. So whenever we have get-togethers and we talk about it, it's kind of like a long time ago where kids would bring their favorite baseball cards and say, "Oh yeah, do you have this one?"
Right.
Well, those stories that we have are very reminiscent of those kind of stories of, "Hey, have you been over to so and so brewery?" "No, I haven't." And they'll tell me about their experience or what they had there, because my cousin's husband, he is like a really good home brewer. He's put stuff that has been in contests, which, I mean, if you're to that level, I'm like, oh my God, I just want to stand over your shoulder and just watch and see what your process is, and how you come up with these recipes, blah blah blah.
It's definitely it's a love for the product. I know on the food side, especially when you're creating and developing, you're looking for can I repeat that? And that's really what you want. Yeah, repeatability
absolutely.
for sure. Now, do you guys collect coasters when you go to different breweries? Do you have a coaster collection?
No, but I recently started.
Yeah, because I have a friend that's what he does. His thing is everywhere he goes, he's going to get a coaster. So when I was in Oregon, I got Rogue Brewery.
Okay.
So I got a bunch of stuff from Rogue Brewery and
I think the closest thing that I do, so whenever I buy a craft beer of some sort,
you get a mug or a glass, don't you?
Well, if I'm buying it from the store,
yeah,
what I'll do is I like to be able to take the label off, and I'm real careful about, and I plaster my toolbox.
Okay. So wine people do the same thing. They actually soak the label off and put it in a book.
Okay.
And they write their tasting notes. And so I've got like a huge catalog of wine labels and tasting notes.
Huh. Okay.
So being in that business for a short period of time, I've been able to go to some pretty high-end tastings.
Okay.
And one of the coolest ones is we went to a Peter Lehman's. And they only sent out like 20 invitations, and me and my friend got to go.
Wow.
And they did 75 years. Or no, wait. Not 75 years. How many years was it? Oh, anyway, we had 75 different glasses of wine to taste.
Wow.
And they gave you a book with the vintner's notes in it. And he's the guy that Ian Hongnell, the guy in charge of everything, basically said, look, I'm not going to say anything about it until you've tasted them all, made your notes. Then we're going to come up and talk about each year. And it may have been like 15 years of Syrah. So we got to do that. And that was not only an education, it was one of the coolest things I've ever done.
So I did one of my buddies for his 50th birthday, I guess it was a couple of years ago, I took him to Fredericksburg.
Right.
Because that's kind of like wine country for Texas.
Yeah, it's the emerging wine country. Yeah,
so,
for sure.
But it's a fun time.
Mm-hmm.
So we went and did kind of the tour over there, along with hitting I think it's Hardin Brothers. I forget what the distillery was it's over in near Luckenbach.
Is it whiskey?
Yes, it's whiskey.
Oh, well, there you go.
As a matter of fact, the night of our other buddy's 50th birthday party,
right,
when I was having like a really good time over at Redneck Country Club.
Oh yeah.
I was partaking in said whiskey.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was going to say that was
that was a memorable night.
That was a fun time. All I can remember saying is, "If you puke in my truck."
Yeah. So, but we went to hit all the wine countries, or the wine vineyards over there. And one thing I did notice that is kind of a significant thing is like the term lineage.
Oh yeah.
So because they have strains of grapes and stuff like that. So it was really interesting to talk to those people there about grapes and I guess when a strain changes from one to another.
Yeah, the varietals are there's quite a the enology when you start studying all the things where the original vines came from and all that stuff. One thing I will say about Texas wines, and I haven't really dove into them here lately. Okay, and I'm not by any means a wine snob, because I think that
somebody says they're not a wine snob means they are.
Well, I hear you, but I'm an open mind with an open palate. And so I spent a lot of time in Napa Valley. I've actually been down to Mendoza in Argentina. So I mean, I've had some really good wines throughout the and I've had global wines that I haven't visited, but I've had their wines.
I've had some really good South African wines.
Oh yeah, for sure. If you like, one of my favorites is a cab called Glen Carlu, and it's as if you're smoking a cigar while you're drinking the wine. It's one of the best ever. I love that stuff. But it's from the terroir. It's from the dirt. That's where you get the flavors, much like coffee beans and things like that. But the thing we'll say about Texas wines is Texas needs to identify itself for the wines that grow best in this area. Don't try to be in Napa Valley.
Yes.
Because this is where they get in trouble. Is don't be Napa, be Texas. Okay. Grow grapes that grow here. When the German ancestors came here and they settled that area, they knew what the terroir would give them. We have a lot of limestone in our ground, so make those wines that the vines grow best in those areas. Don't try to grow some regal red grape that doesn't belong in Texas, because cool nights are what makes a lot of those wines work in the Wine Valley. If you've ever been to Napa, to me it's like my favorite place in America.
Because their whole coastal region.
Oh, at nighttime?
Just the whole environmental aspect of
for sure.
what makes them...
You get up in the morning, and it's nice and cool. And then it gets hot during the afternoon, and then in the evening it gets cold again. I love every bit of it. It reminds me, parts of it reminds me of Italy. It just looks like Italy. When you hit Silverado Trail, headed north, it's just beautiful up there. And the food culture is really good there too. But Texas is slowly catching up to it. But I just urge them to stay on the track of wines that grow best in Texas. Don't try to be in Napa. Because that's where you're going to get in trouble. Because then people are going to come in and just slaughter you.
Now, I will say this, speaking as a Texan, if somebody comes along and says, "Well, I have a nice vintage from from the China Berry,"
right? Hey,
don't drink that.
Well, I will tell you though. I hear you. So I had a friend that lived in. He lived just outside of Bernie. Okay, I'll just say that. And he lived on the Eisenhower Ranch. It was huge. And so the county roads have cattle guards.
Okay.
Literally, you think you're driving on somebody's ranch, but it's a county road with cattle guards. And old man Eisenhower has a cave that goes off into the ground.
Okay.
Okay. He's probably no longer with us because I know he's 80 when I saw that. It was like 20 years ago. So, although no, he may live to be 100. Who knows? Okay. So anyway, we were there hanging out with him one day, and he starts up this generator and flips a switch, and these lights turn on, and there's this big cave. And there's all these dusty, cobwebby boxes all over the place. This wine he made. And man, I want you to know that was some good stuff.
Really?
Oh yeah. And so there's a lot of those dudes out there that they just make it for their own use. They don't sell it, they don't distribute or anything like that. But generally whites do really well in that area. White wines.
Okay.
Yeah, white wines. You gotta be careful.
I was like, hey,
nowadays you gotta be careful what you say. I know. So let's politically correct that up. White wines, and so it's funny because and because it's just very minerally, and that's what you kind of want there. But I want to tell you, this stuff was really good. So Gewürztraminers, Rieslings, things like that.
Now, the first one's not a familiar one.
Yeah, it's German. It's a
Riesling, yes.
Yeah. So one's going to be petroleum and one's going to be more of a floral. And anyway, there's companies that blend them and they're both really good. But those kind of wines are really good. And people that say they're red wine snobs, okay, bullshit on that. Because if you're really enjoying the wine, you're going to enjoy all phases of the wine. Before your meal, your appetizer wine, your main wine, and your aperitif at the end of the meal. You're gonna enjoy the entire lineage of wine and not just one flavor. Because usually people that are cab snobs are probably menthol smokers. You just can't hit them hard enough.
Okay, so
you can't hit them hard enough with something.
So I did have this. I forget what vineyard it was, and it was, to me, it was like it was one of the nicer ones that we went to while we were there.
Right.
And this one lady that we were talking to that was doing like our whole taste testing thing, she made this comment about I guess people's palates.
Oh yeah.
So she made this comment. She's like, generally people who are like people who favor beer, they tend to favor the sweeter wines.
Okay.
And so I was like, well, you're gonna have to explain that. And when she brought up the thing about the aspect of the sugars,
yes,
I was like, okay, I actually can sort of.
Yeah, they call it bricks. Yeah,
I understand where you're going with that because sugars are a very important aspect of making beer.
Oh yeah, well it's fermentation.
So
the yeast.
They had something to do. So I guess is there sweet red wine?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, there definitely is. Yeah,
and I don't know what differentiates between what makes sweet versus what's the other. Would it be bitter or
dry?
Dry. Okay.
Yeah, you'll typically get dry wines
because there were wines that I liked that my buddy did not.
Sure.
And he is the opposite of me because he's like you when it comes to beer.
Right.
He tends to favor like the Hefeweizens, wheat beer.
Right.
Wheat beers, not so much ales. It's
right.
Because the lagers are just they're a tougher animal to make. They require much more hands-on.
And that's my favorite type. I love Czech beers.
Yeah.
I love a good lager. I mean, Yingling is still one of my
Yeah.
favorite beers.
So,
Yeah.
but he and I were worlds apart when it came to beer.
Right.
Actually, when it comes to beer and wine.
Mm-hmm.
So and he's like you, not nothing heavy, no real big hoppy ales. Because I've brought him, which in the beer world, these are like really good beers. But it's all subjective to the person that's drinking it.
Sure. No, I can if I understand the criteria, I can pretty much work within those parameters.
Right.
I may not like it. I'll still score it fairly though. Because I'm looking for the winemaker or the beer maker's craft. I guess that's what I'm saying mostly. If I look at anything like food, anything I'm going to eat or enjoy or savor, I'm looking for, did the guy understand what his end game was? And did he deliver it?
Okay.
Because to me, describing what you made is almost as, well, it's actually more important, I think, than what you've actually delivered. Because then it gives me a benchmark to look at. So, like, say, for example, tacos El Pastor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whoa.
Yeah. So, to me, that's the highlight of making a taco.
Absolutely.
To me, that's the benchmark. So, if you get a guy that understands what real El Pastor is and does it the traditional way, and he hits it out of the park, this guy's going to score really well for me. Now, if he uses a bad tortilla, shame on him for using a bad tortilla because it didn't enhance the meal. But I'm not going to knock the meat.
Right.
Okay. I'm going to say, hey, this is really awesome, and you've seen me do it.
Yeah.
This would be better if you use this. And so, I do the same thing with wine and beers. Like I said, I'll drink a hoppy beer. I'll take a sample and say, yeah, that was good, but I don't like it.
Right.
So, yeah, I think it's all subjective. I look at it as it's somebody that, like your palate, can be developed. The difference between a palate being a good palate and a bad palate is you've got to take the time and be able to describe what it is you're tasting or experiencing.
Right.
Because what you're doing is you're connecting what you taste to the limbic region of your brain.
Okay.
Okay? You're literally, your brain will the first thing you do when you taste something is you're going to like it savory or sweet. You're going to hate it or you're going to love it. Okay? Your brain, that's the first indicator says I'm either going to swallow it or spit it out.
Sure.
Okay.
Which is the ending of a really good
Yeah,
joke.
yeah, right. So, so that's the first step. And generally proteins, that's why you always want to have food or fat when you're tasting things, because it really gives you the ability to experience that full flavor and it transports it better through your system to that limbic region of your brain.
Okay.
Because you taste with your nose as well as your mouth and your eyes.
True,
Those three things are very important to tasting. So what ends up happening is you take all this in. You get the smell coming in, because when you drink a beer, the top of that glass is open. So when you open your mouth, you're breathing in all those flavors and aromas coming off the top. Then when you get past the foam and hit the body, and that gets and you swallow that all in, that's a whole nother experience. And so your brain is cataloging all these things. So going back to the palate, what you got to do is you got to teach a person how to describe what they tasted. Was it grassy? Was it earthy? Was it fruity? Did it you have, and those are where the descriptions come out. So when you start saying hints of cardamom with some blah, blah, blah. Well, that's because that's that person's best way of relating what that taste was to them. Basically, you're getting down to herbaceous, grassy, dirt, floral. Those are kind of the easy ones. And then once you go to that, like berries, is it berry or does it taste like coffee? Then you start expanding on that. Your palate then would say, okay, I've developed to a point where I can say, now this smells like Ethiopian coffee versus Folgers coffee.
The extent of my review is thank you, may I have another?
Right. Well, that's when you get into critical judgment, though. So, like when I used to judge barbecues, the same thing. We talked about that before.
Right.
It's what you're looking at is you're looking at a way of describing all these experiences you're having on the palate.
Right.
And believe it or not, that can be developed. And what it is, if you notice, it's not the actual wine or the beer or
It just
the food.
can't get in the way of beer enjoyment.
What it is that you're getting more air in your mouth and it's transporting those flavors throughout that limbic region of your brain.
Right.
Anyway, that's kind of a quick science thing on it, but it can be developed. A lot of people just don't take the time to develop it because they shotgun it. They don't savor it. You see a lot of people swirl it in their mouth. Whatever ceremony you follow,
Right.
that's fine as long as you can explain why you're doing it. But yeah, the whole thing is getting that immersion into it instead of just, I drank 44 beers and
Yeah,
I wrote reviews on them. And
we don't have any beer reviewers that are beer bonging beer.
Right. Yeah, and you
goes
shouldn't.
with a write-up.
and you shouldn't. And if you're not enjoying pairings, then you're missing out on the next leg of the experience because you had a brisket taco.
That brisket
with an IPA.
Yes.
Okay.
English, and I can. And I guess.
So tell me what you experienced when you. So did you notice? Could you recall anything that stood out flavor wise? Was it smoke? Was it wood? Was it meat?
No.
It didn't enhance it. Did it make it sweeter? Did it make it more sour? Did it make it saltier?
I don't recall.
Yeah.
I mean, it was they went well together.
Okay.
And as far as
so the Unami side of it was happy with Sam.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I mean, would I say it was the best pairing? Honestly, the side there's a side of me that goes, well, there was nothing else to drink, so it was okay.
So I will tell you this: I've literally scored water.
Oh my god!
We literally have scored water in tasting classes, and
I'll have another tap.
And well, so it's really interesting because you can do that. So if you have a glass of water, I dare you to just go get a glass of water and tell me the first thing you smell.
I'll have the Detroit 2017.
You can literally, once you know the benchmark, you can rate those because we rated still waters and we rated sparkling waters. And we rated filtered waters. And obviously, anything that's in a glass container is going to be your best carrier.
Okay.
It's very neutral. It doesn't impart any flavors.
Right.
So you can tell if there's been like chlorine, for example, or chloramine added to it. You can even tell minerality if you train yourself well enough to understand what minerality is.
I was going to say, I can do that in East Texas.
Sure you can. Well, it's really funny because if you pick up petroleum, you're probably getting something from the well water that's in an area that's really sandy and it permeates through the water tables. No, literally. I know it sounds funny, but it is legit science.
Because I remember like when we would take trips as kids, as you know, if there are stops along the way, like hotels. I remember I specifically remember this in Oklahoma, is taking a shower where it seemed like there was no way I could wash the soap.
So that's soft water. That's water that's been running through a water treater. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to share a story before we close this because when I was a kid, when you live on a farm, you don't get very many vacation days.
Right.
And when you do, it's going to be a 2-week or at least a full week's trip.
Yes.
Well, we took a Route 66 from Missouri to California.
Wow.
In the station. Classic. Yeah, the family vacation thing. And we were in a Ford Town and Country station wagon.
The only thing you were missing was a soundtrack.
Exactly. It was a 72 Ford Town and Country station wagon. It was white with the wood grain panels.
All American
Exactly. With no air conditioning in it. So we were driving along and we stopped in a town called Vaughn, New Mexico.
Okay.
And so everybody had got Cokes. Well, I wanted water. So I went to this water fountain and I should have known better. I was just guzzling water down. And it just had a weird smell to it and a weird taste, but I was thirsty and I was guzzling it. Further down the road, we stopped and we bought some produce because they always have produce stands. Well, when you cross lines, you can't take the produce with you in many of the states because of bugs. They say no grapes, no oranges, whatever. So we were shoveling the stuff down. So I ate a bunch of grapes. I had a banana or two, had some oranges. And remember, we're in a hot station wagon in the summer eating all this stuff. So I started not feeling so good. I mean, I was pretty green around the gills. So we stopped at the Thunderbird Inn Buffet and Hotel in Alamogordo, New Mexico. I don't believe it's there anymore. And so they have the restrooms and truck stop on one side and the buffets on the other side. It'd be an equivalent to today's Petro or Iron Skillet, right?
Okay.
So I was not feeling good. My stepdad says, here, I want you to take, he took these 2 Alka-Seltzer and put them in a glass of water. Because once you drink this really fast, you'll feel a lot better. So I did. I guzzled it down. And all of a sudden, everything started to come up. I mean, literally, I'm like 11 years old. And I'm sitting there and I got my hand over my mouth and I'm running towards the bathroom. So the first thing I do is I kick open the first stall. And there's a dude sitting there with his pants around his ankles taking a dump. And all I could see it to this day. He goes, "No, kid, no." And I took my hand away from my mouth. And I hit him from 4 foot away, man. Projectile nailed him.
Oh, my God.
From neck to ankles, dude. I mean, nailed this guy. It was horrible. And this sounds like a scene from a movie.
Yeah.
But the guy next to him got sick, too. And because he heard me hit him and he heard this guy screaming, and this guy called me names I've never been called before in my life, man. But I felt so much better. I got up and went to the sink. I washed my face off, rinsed my mouth off and everything, and he's back there cussing, calling me all I mean, literally, and I just vacated the bathroom. And I felt so much better at the table. But that was my bad water experience coming on this road trip. And I'll tell you what,
So it was the water that did it.
It's the water that made me sick. Because everybody else had Cokes and nobody else got sick. I was the only one that got sick.
Okay.
And so we even had a dog that wouldn't in the car. We even you take the family dog, and he wouldn't even drink the water. So that's why you learn to trust your nose and your eyes before you put it in your mouth.